So don't interrupt in the middle. Please just note down what you feel like asking. We can always go back to any slide in the end if necessary. Because we are doing online mode, let us try to finish the presentation first and then look at interaction. Okay. So the brief outline of my presentation is we'll look at knowledge systems. We'll also look at various knowledge systems. And we will see the values and impact of knowledge system. That is very generic. Specifically, we will see Indian knowledge system, how the growth, suppression, and destruction of Indian knowledge system happened. And we will also look at how did Indian knowledge system still survive? What is the current status of Indian knowledge system? And what could be the future of Indian knowledge system? Some action points. Okay. So what do we mean by a knowledge system? First thing, it's an organized structure and a dynamic process, like your college or your university, whatever it is. What does it do? It looks at generating and representing content of the system, components of the system, classes of the system, or types of knowledge. That is, knowledge content, knowledge components, knowledge classes, and types of knowledge, which is domain specific or characterized by domain relevant features as defined by the user or consumer. So knowledge is a very vast thing. You do have subclasses of knowledge, different types of knowledge. In that, the types are predominantly captured by the sense of domain. For example, Ayurvedic medical system, okay? Or the modern allopathic medical system, or the traditional Gurukula education system, Western university system. So this system is a very generic word, and we'll also tell what system really means, okay? It is reinforced by a set of logical relationships that connect the content or various components or attributes of this knowledge system. So the connections between its subcomponents is very logical. For example, Ayurvedic disease condition is strongly connected to certain plants which are used for therapy, or certain boundary conditions, like don't go and expose yourself to cold, don't drink cold water, whatever it is. So this is the way the logical connections between them happen, okay? Things to observe in any knowledge system. First thing, what did we mention? We mentioned that knowledge system is organized structure and dynamic process. Because it is organized and dynamic, the following happen. It is more closed. Any organization is more closed than open, but it is because it is dynamic, it has to be open. So there is a very good balance between a closed structure and a dynamic entity. Because it is dynamic, changes are possible. Changes are possible only if the system is dynamic, but it can be slow, sometimes very slow. And eventually, because it's very slow, it becomes so irritating, it becomes explosive. For example, take the case of how Protestantism emerged. For almost 600, 700 years, it was all Catholic. And in the Catholic system, there was so much of questions, changes were not permitted, very rigid, etc., all that. So it accumulated and suddenly exploded as a Protestant sect. Same thing happens in any system. So too much changes cannot be allowed. The system definition goes away. So the question is, what kind of changes are permitted, should be accepted, can be accommodated, can be perceived, so many sorts. Okay. Many independent knowledge systems exist and have been more competing than cooperating. This is one thing that we see. In fact, if you go to allopathic doctor and say, I was taking Unani or homeopathy medicine, they will say, oh, that is all quack, bogus. Okay. So the problem with the knowledge systems is that openness is very less. They become very rigid. Knowledge systems are evolved. So it is not that it happened yesterday. Okay. Knowledge systems are evolved entities and are characterized by behavior of people who use or are dependent on this. Okay. For example, the Ayurvedic medical system is little over 6,000 years. Earlier to that, it was there. Now, obviously, maybe 10,000 years back, somebody would have attempted seeing a plant being eaten by cow and feeling better, and they might have tried something there. So, knowledge systems are under continuous evolution. So, there are different type of behavior by followers. Some are fundamentalists, some are practitioners, some are observers, some are skeptic, and some are blind followers. So this more or less, and it also includes some who don't believe. Okay. This is apart from material aspects based or related to the knowledge system, which is also dynamic. For example, one component in our knowledge system, which has become very important, is petroleum and diesel, which was not there 60 years back. Majority of us had not even seen petrol or diesel 60 years back. Maybe except Delhi, Bombay, here and there, but hardly anything here. But today, each of us go to a petrol bunk and fill petrol every day in the morning. Similarly, the idea of foreign exchange was not even there simply because people did not have much money of their local currency itself. Today, foreign exchange is another factor which, so knowledge systems as they evolve, they throw out older components, bring in newer components. Sometimes the old ones which are thrown out, after some time they come back. For example, cotton clothes now. For 20, 30 years, nylon, terylene, synthetic clothes dominated. Now again, everybody is back to natural fabric. So this is the way the knowledge system operates, not just in clothes, in value of the knowledge system, in the type of education, in the type of cultural events, so many things. There is very little difference between knowledge system and the life we lead. So let's look at practical examples and insights into components of knowledge system. Predominantly what we follow, Ayurvedic and allopathic medical. These are the two dominant ones. Ayurvedic is native, allopathic is a British imposed or a British imported one. In the medical system, it is medical knowledge system. We also have Gurukula, madrasas, convent, and public schooling. So, state, CBSE, ICSE, all education knowledge systems. We also have barter system, commercial banking, post office banking, Islamic banking, money lenders. These are the economic knowledge systems. Many or most of these are consolidated over centuries of use. It is influenced by cultural, socio-economic, political factors, and in recent times, by resources and environmental factors. For example, 25 years back, nobody was selling sand. Who on earth will think that sand has value? Today, sand is one of the most expensive items. Similarly, 20, 30 years back, you couldn't buy water. Today, water is a commodity. Tomorrow, it may be air and oxygen. We don't know, particularly in Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, all that. I won't be surprised in 10 years on the roadside, people will sell bottled oxygen for you to stay alive. Okay. Now you can also see, observe what is closed and open in this. Okay. Many of the resources are open because we don't know. For example, everybody uses a mobile phone now, and battery has become a commodity, so on and so forth. Okay. Nobody goes to the post office to write letters anymore. All this has happened. Okay. So many things are very open. Many components get in easily, get out. Certain components are very rigid. For example, dress doesn't change overnight. Okay. How do we understand knowledge system? We understand knowledge system by looking at expressions that are inherent when any knowledge system is used. Okay. These expressions can be explicit, implicit, or in a subtle manner during their use. Need not be explicit and implicit all the time. It can even be subtle. Its characteristic can be seen the way society handles its economy, education, law and governance, gender and other equalities and inequalities. Okay. For example, uh, the way we treat education is different from the way American society treats education. We may still use the same textbooks, but here the favor is that education is still a state obligation. Society is collectively obliged to provide education cost effective for all its citizens. And up to class 10, everywhere the government system is free. Whereas at other places, education is already an economic commodity, okay, which is unfortunately slowly happening in India too. One can also infer from many socio-cultural and attitudinal aspects of citizens. For example, we are one of the few societies which still do Vana Mahotsav. Tribal societies do, which means our society, like all societies, have evolved from tribal culture, and we have not discarded many of them. Okay. Unfortunately, many aspects of knowledge system is linked with religious beliefs. So religion has played a amazingly strong role in the evolution of humans, at least in the last 5,000-6,000 years. Earlier to that, we still don't know. Maybe very crude forms or native forms of paganism might have been there, and it still exists in certain isolated communities. But religion seems to have taken a big stranglehold on our mind and attitude. And I want to quote John Lennon here. He said, "We are still not fully free people. Every time we talk, we behave somewhere, religious beliefs and religious attitudes seem to dominate our expressions in everything, even though it is not necessary." Okay. So that comes to the basic problem of which knowledge system is right. Okay. All knowledge systems have evolved over time, culture and geography, trade and interaction. This is a fact. All knowledge systems, some less, some more, some are lost over time. We don't know, what civilization was there, which built the Stonehenge or stuff, things like that. There have been some dramatic shifts from one knowledge system to another in the course of nations. For example, Japan suddenly in the 16th, 17th century decided to shift lot of its behavior, practice, and values from the traditional Buddhist dominated Shinto type of culture, and they imbibed a lot of Western knowledge system ideas. Okay. Turkey also did that, though not completely. North and South America are completely now Western knowledge system, even though just 500, 600 years back, they had nothing to do with the Western knowledge system. Same is China. China suddenly changed from one philosophy to another. Russia also did that. Of course, North Korea is another strange example. Okay. which means as you value or as you are forced to change or as you perceive a certain degree of change to be better, these changes happen. And if the political alignment is also there, the changes can be overnight and dramatic. Okay. For example, Taliban. What happened in Afghanistan? Suddenly, as soon as Taliban came, they said all girls cannot go to school beyond class 5. Over. The whole university system, which was open to them, they cannot go. Okay. So these are the sudden, which means political force is a very strong force. Okay. And many knowledge systems are outdated, rigidly deployed, mostly using undemocratic forces and very violently. You see this in extremely conservative societies. North Korea is one, Taliban, Afghanistan is another, and more conservative societies in Middle East do this. It is very tough since balance is needed for needed and society changes much slower than an individual. For example, dress and food habits. Your children go around with torn jeans. That itself is a style. And for almost 50, 60 years, people in Tamil Nadu, particularly the girls, avoided salwar kameez. Now it's become very common. Similarly, food. Today, pizza has become part of the diet. Fast food has become part of our diet. Sports is another. You can see now people are picking up newer and newer sports, right? So, uh, some people change fast, some people adapt fastly, some people are forced to adapt, some people resist. So many things, okay? Not just one part of the knowledge system, every part of the knowledge system, okay? So we need to know now what are the knowledge systems which are operating and what it means, etc. Many knowledge systems are there. Hundreds of them are there, even though four dominate. And many of us will not be clear what we are using it because it's very blur. For some people, for example, it's very common with college students now to wear a combination of jeans and kurta. Kurta is predominantly an Indian dress. Jeans is predominantly a Western dress item. But this combination seems to work very well for college going students. Most universities have this now. Okay. It's also come down to girls. Only very isolated societies have maintained their original knowledge system and have little or no interaction with other knowledge system. For example, I don't know, many of you may not have this exposure. We do have such societies in Andaman Islands, plenty of them in Amazon. I will show some of them. Okay. A great majority, however, use 2 to 3 different knowledge systems for different purposes. We have Western education system, which is what this talk is all about. But just now I had an Indian food for lunch, and my dress and living styles is Indian dress and living styles. Okay. So today, most of us live in a blended knowledge system, and that blending is not very uniform. Okay. So what are the knowledge systems which are in contention? The most dominant knowledge system is a Western or a modern developed economy knowledge system. This is actually the original Greco-Roman model. And we can see it most prevalent either in full or more than 50% in almost all countries of the world today. Okay. Very influential. It also has contributed because colonization made it more popular than it otherwise deserves. There are other knowledge systems, for example, the Oriental knowledge system in Arabia, Middle East, little in India, China, Japanese, African, etc. So, what we need to exercise caution is about, well, appearing to be characterized by historical religious aspect. It is not so much. In many cases, cultural, ideological, and technological factors have overruled. Okay. For example, Russia suddenly became a communist country after the revolution in 1920. And the entire Greek and Russian Orthodox Church, which was dominating their culture and their practices, simply went into oblivion for 80, 85 years. And again, after the collapse of the Russian Empire, I mean USSR, and when it became Russia again, now all these Orthodox churches have sprung up. They are quite powerful now. Okay, so suddenly the ideological issue changed this, and today you will also see lot and lot of technological influences which change the knowledge system. For example, what you see in Southeast Asia. Okay. Now, which knowledge system exists all over now? First thing, Western knowledge system, as we call it, WKS. It's predominantly in Europe, North America, and China. Covers about 50% of the world population. Its other name is modern scientific system. It also relates to about 75% of the current economies in the world. Okay? So it's a very wealthy knowledge system. In fact, the reason we are talking in English is not that English is a good language, but English is an economic language today. Okay. Then there's Arabic knowledge system, predominantly in Middle East, in North Africa, quite a lot in the Indian subcontinent, little in Central Asia, Indonesia, and Malaysia. It covers about 30% of the world population, but it also controls 70% of the petroleum economy in the world. Okay. Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, whatever. Okay. The third knowledge system is the Indian knowledge system. It's predominantly in the Indian subcontinent, quite a lot in Southeast Asia, Tibet, Japan. It covers about 25% of the world population, and it relates to about 25% of the current economy in the world. Then there is a fourth knowledge system, and these are the four dominant knowledge systems. I'm not saying there aren't others. There are many other minors which are blended and so on. There is something which is very interesting. That's the indigenous knowledge system. Exists in all parts of the world, more so in India, Africa, and South America. Covers only 5% of the world population, but this is the predecessor to all other knowledge systems in the world. Okay, which means from these isolated knowledge systems, we all have evolved, developed, consolidated, grouped, and unfortunately, in many cases, we have destroyed the knowledge, indigenous knowledge system from which we evolved. And you need to note, no society now lives exclusively on one knowledge system except the indigenous knowledge system. Many live with a blended version of 2, 3, and 4. Minimum 2. Little bit of Western knowledge system, little bit of Indian knowledge system. Sometimes 3. Little bit of Western knowledge system, little bit of Indian knowledge system, little bit of Arabic knowledge system. Some 4. For example, the tribals here in southern part of Karnataka, they have even the indigenous knowledge system still a part of it. For example, majority of them don't use metal vessels. They still cook in mud pots, which is what they were doing about 5 to 10,000 years back. Okay? So what are we focused? It's clear that currently in India, we all lead a life based on blended knowledge system, dominated by Indian knowledge system and considerable Western knowledge system. For example, our education and economy predominantly is a Western ideas from Western knowledge system, whereas our lifestyle, food, dress, cultural habits are all Indian knowledge system. Okay. The formal education, economy, and industry, however, is dominated by this. It is here we are questioning what Indian knowledge system is and attempting to put more Indian knowledge system into our existing lifestyle, as it is clear that we are now facing more negative issues with overload of Western knowledge system. Western knowledge system is impressive. gives quick returns, quick answers, but it's not sustainable. Okay. For example, one of the biggest problems we are going to face is a crisis with the antibiotics, which in another 10 years which will so bad, so acute that it will be worse than COVID. In another 10 years, it will be very difficult for people in India to get cured using antibiotics because slowly the society is becoming an antibiotic resistant society, meaning you have lot of germs, viruses, and bacteria which are immune to antibiotics. They don't work. These are called the super bugs. And you find this in many hospitals now. And that's why the death rate of doctors in hospitals have increased. Doctors' life in hospital is very bad because they get exposed to multiple patients with multiple diseases. Okay. And today it's a serious problem. Okay. What is our dream or dream of this? To live by significant component of Indian knowledge system only. Is it possible? Is it meaningful? Is it productive? These are the questions to ask. Okay. Living by is difficult, but more difficult is to answer this. So what is the Western knowledge system plus a little of the Arabic knowledge system? Something that evolved over 3,000 years in the socio-cultural geography of the Greece, Rome, Middle East, what is called the Fertile Crescent. All factors have played significant role in shaping this and continue to do so. All these have one thing in common. There is one book that is sacred and they are monotheists, which does not include female and child gods. No female god, no child god. Its main character is belief in redemption at death and the moral compass grounded in belief in only one God, which is a male God, and in one book. For example, the Jews have only one holy book, the Christians have one holy book, the Muslims have one holy. All these are sometimes termed in one umbrella called the Abrahamic religions. It has been institutionalized very early. Therefore, they have a very strong authority. Okay. For example, the Vatican or the Mecca, whatever it is. Rebelling or questioning of tenets is not permitted and results in excommunication or death. So either you are sent out of the community or you are killed also. And the tenets in these are very harsh and cruel and acquiring in nature, means they all want to grab. For example, no heaven for non-followers, eye for eye, death to kafirs. Okay. This very harsh and cruel is influenced by the geography of that place. All of them developed in deserts where it's a very harsh environment. So the tenets of the religion mirror the socio-cultural ambience. Whereas, if you look at Indian knowledge system, this also evolved over 5,000 years in the socio-cultural geography of Bharat, that is an Indian subcontinent. All factors have played significant role. However, there is no one book that is sacred. So, which means there are multiple sacred books. It is polytheist, including female and child gods, and it's highly non-individualistic. That's why you have people fighting between Rama and Krishna. Okay. And when Rama Krishna fight is settled, Shiva comes and then there is another new fight. Okay. Its main character is belief in rebirth, and the moral compass is grounded in two terms called dharma and karma. It has either not been institutionalized or has multiple institutions along different philosophies, thus multiple parallel authority. Each one can suit oneself or move to the other or even disown. One of the most liberal, pluralistic knowledge system is ours. Rebelling or questioning of tenets is permitted and very frequent. One reason for multiple philosophies that have emerged in India, India today has at least 10 or 15 living philosophies. People may call it different names. Dvaita, Advaita, Visishta Advaita, that, this, Gnostic, Charvaka's philosophy, so many things, Buddhist philosophy, everything, Chinese, everything emerged. Tenets in these are very gentle and bountiful and giving in nature because our subcontinent always had food and water plenty. Atithi Devo Bhava. Your guest is a god. There in the Middle East, guest is a pest because guest is already taking resources which are scarce for you. Some dramatic conflict you can see. All of you who are academic people would know Galileo Galilei. In 1632, because of his work on astronomy through telescope, all that, he discovered that Earth revolves around Sun. At that time, head of the Christian world was Pope Urban VIII, who was living in Vatican. And they had a view. In fact, the Bible says Earth is the center and even Sun revolves around it. So when he presented the opposite view, it was opposed by church and it was treated anti-Christian view of the creation. He was kept under house arrest from 1632 to 1642 where he died because they told him, we will kill you when he presented this in 1632. They then told you can be alive, we will not kill you provided you are under house arrest. So the last 10 years of his life, he was in house arrest, even though he had discovered the truth that Earth revolves around Sun and not the other way around. Very similar thing happened by the idea of Big Bang on November 22nd, 2001, the proof of Big Bang. And the Vatican had another seminar. I will not go into those details. Very similar thing. Okay. So one should exercise the following caution. Knowledge systems can be very rigid and very subjective. Can be very rigid. Even if you present the truth, they may reject. And it also depends who says. If the leader agrees, then the opinion changes. Conflicts and contradictions in every knowledge system is very common. The value and the maturity of the knowledge system clearly tells how well these are handled. So how well conflicts and contradictions are handled is really the superiority or the maturity of a knowledge system. If conflicts and contradictions are handled through a gun, like it happens in Taliban, then it's a very primitive and a very brutal knowledge system. What is the decline for the Indian knowledge system, even though it was there much earlier than any other knowledge system for over 5,000 years? Indian knowledge system was suppressed by the Arabic knowledge system, even though they suppressed. It was not destroyed, it was suppressed. Since they lacked total control over the geography and polity from the period 12th century till 18th century. It was still vibrant in many local geographies that held on to much of the Indian knowledge system. Examples abound in much of South India. And probably is this the reason why South India is economically, culturally, and industrially more prosperous than North India? I don't know. The real damage to Indian knowledge system came from the following. The British colonial rule from 1825 onwards. You see what they did? Macaulay. This is the Macaulay's address to the British Parliament on 2nd February 1835. He says, after traveling through India, he has not seen a single beggar or a thief. So much wealth they have. He says, I propose that we replace our old and ancient education system, our culture. For if the Indians think that all that is foreign and English is good and greater than their own, they will lose their self-esteem. They will become what we want them, a truly dominated nation. This is the idea with which Macaulay introduced our education system which unfortunately still continue. This is, of course, more details of Macaulay's discussion in the parliament in London. And he very arrogantly says, I have no knowledge of either Sanskrit or Arab, but he says neither Sanskrit nor Arabic poetry match that of Europe. Okay. So it is with a very arrogant and contemptuous colonial superiority mindset that we were ruled by the British. You see here, this is the entrance to the Simla Club, Royal Simla Club. No dogs are Indians. Okay? This is the way people planned our life for about 150 years. So what does a knowledge system do? Okay. What the knowledge system does is the following. It provides for a lot of interaction. It provides for reinforcement. That is, you did something, you can get it reinforced and say it is right, or it can be improved, or it is wrong, it can be replaced. Consolidation. Whatever is right and beneficial gets consolidated. And there is a purpose among its attributes. Okay. Why do we celebrate a puja? After all, finally, the God doesn't eat anything. We want to eat well. So we have a festival. We have all the peripherals and rituals connected with it. Afterwards, everybody will sit down, enjoy a meal. And if the meal is good and wholesome, they will say the puja and the event was very successful. So there is a purpose behind all this. Okay. Good times, okay, good stories, good vacation. Many people every season they go on to a climbing a hillock to worship and come. There are many other purpose behind it. But what is shown is a ritualistic aspect. Okay. So the knowledge system defines and exhibits a culture. It provides an identity. When you say you are an Indian, what does Indian mean? After all, every human being has two legs, two hands, face, everything. And if you give them one common language, yes, everybody will speak the same common language. Still, what is it? What does it mean to say I'm an Indian? Or within an Indian, what does it mean to say I'm a Kannadiga? What does it mean? Okay. That's one. A culture and the identity, culture, and the wisdom, right? For example, why do we take a bath in the morning? Majority, 90% of the Americans take bath in the night. 90% of the Americans get up, just wash their face, have a cup of coffee, and drive to school or college. Only when they come back home after working, evening they come, then take a shower, have dinner, and then sleep. Why is it that we take a bath in the morning? Majority of people take bath in the morning, sometimes in the evening also. Okay. There is some wisdom behind this. Okay. We are a tropical country. We sweat a lot. Okay. There were no fans those days. So even in the night, you would sweat a lot. So obviously, you want to clean up. That's a very good way to start the day with a bath. You go and work, you get dirt and grease. Again, you come back in the evening and take bath. Very nice. So there is a lot of wisdom in all the small things we take for granted. There is also an economic value in preserving all this. For example, every day morning people in Tamil Nadu wear Sri Gandha or Vibhuti on their forehead. Girls and boys, both. Little of it. Right? So the production of that, the maintenance of that, buying that, selling that, keeping it at home, valuing it. There is nothing. It's purely an economic value. It is shown as sanctity, but it has economic value. Why do we put flowers to idols of God and photos of God? It has an economic value. So a good knowledge system integrates all these. Economic value provides livelihood. Wisdom consolidates and gives confidence. Culture is a vibrant expression. Identity builds a knowledge of oneself. It's almost like I want to know who I am. Therefore, I know what others are. It is both. To know myself is to also know others. Okay. Specifically, the Indian knowledge system, culture, core and related dharma. As I mentioned, dharma and karma are the two rungs of the Indian knowledge, Indian life. One rung is dharma, other is karma, and the rungs connecting dharma and karma is our life. Okay. So core and related dharmic values, as one calls. Diversity and forms of cultures. Amazing. India has the most diversity. If you take all the world together on one side, we have as much diversity as the entire world. And forms of cultures. Unbelievable. India is the most culturally rich nation on earth. Only people who have not traveled in India don't know this. Okay. Unlike what is happening now, lot of our wisdom was communicated orally. Writing is a very new thing. Writing came only about 2000 to 2500 years back to India or in India. Before that, all the knowledge which was there quite a lot of them, were only in the oral tradition. That is why historical education emphasized a lot on oral rendering. Then utilitarian and welfare aspects, whether it is economy, trade, skilling, law and governance, etc., etc. For example, we had a reasonably equitable society in the sense, in terms of gender equity, we have been far ahead of other societies. We also had caste divisions, which had some other motive, but represented as some other motive. So there is contradiction and conflict in that. All that has happened. Many times they have overcome that. Sometimes it is preserved. Today, all this is resolved through a political process, which is a new form of conflict resolution. If you look at today, politics is basically a place where certain conflicts are resolved. You may call it democratic, but it's a place to resolve certain conflicts in knowledge system that exists. Okay. So the Indian knowledge system has all this. All knowledge systems, particularly the modern knowledge system, whether it's Western, Indian, Arabic, are really unsustainable. What do you mean unsustainable? It doesn't last long. You put more. For example, today we use so much of plastic, right? Plastic has to be banned. If plastic has to be banned today, why was it created 30, 40 years back on a large scale? So every knowledge system today that mass population use is basically unsustainable. For example, houses that we use. At the most, we can live in our house for about 100 years. After that, the house is demolished, and what happens to all that broken tiles, broken mud, bricks, cement, steel, all that? Where does it go? Unsustainable. So today's every knowledge system, not just Indian, Arabic, Western, all knowledge systems today are unsustainable. But does it mean that there are no sustainable knowledge systems? Yes. You look at sustainable knowledge system here in the Brazilian rainforest. This is a housing for 100 people. See, 100 people live here. All of them sleep under this, both for rain and sunshine. The shadow is there. The common space is for everybody. Children play, they cook, everything. They just stay here. And you see here, they have not disturbed anything around here. Whereas today we destroy everything up to 100 kilometers. Bangalore is a very good bad example. Okay. Delhi is even worse. Washington DC is even worse. New York is terrible. London is nightmare. So this is in Brazil, community based on indigenous knowledge system, housing for 100. Now what happens when the house has to be replaced? This is all degradable. If you put it onto the soil, it will degrade. You collect new ones from the forest, build your thatch roof. That's all. Very sustainable. Do we have that? Yes. Even in India we have. There are islands in Andamans, particularly the North Sentinel Island. These are the tribals, okay? And you can see here, this tribal came to shoot an arrow at a helicopter, which was sent just after the tsunami. And please remember one thing, there's a knowledge system is so accurate. In the tsunami, nobody died here. Only people died in the mainland of India, in Tuticorin and in Kadalur and Pondicherry area. People died because they had no knowledge how to survive a tsunami. Whereas these people are experts in surviving a tsunami. Okay. The other interesting thing is in November 2018, John Allen Chow, an American missionary, was killed by members of the Santalis tribe while trying to convert them to Christianity. His illegal attempt at contact could have wiped out the entire tribe through introducing new diseases such as flu, which the Santalis have no immunity. These people have been living in isolation for little over 50 to 60,000 years back. This is exactly what happened in South America. When Christopher Columbus went, he had very few soldiers. He killed a few natives, but his soldiers were already carrying typhoid, cholera, viral infection, all the germs in their body for which they were already immune. But the local population in South America was exposed to it for the first time. And even before the Spanish people came to villages, before that only people had started dying because this virus had spread through air so fast that people simply dropped like just like worse than 100 times worse than COVID. Same thing. So indigenous knowledge system implies sustainability. But you can't go throw off all your clothes, live like them. We don't know. We can't even hunt for our food today. Okay. So we have far given up our sustainability practices. Today we live only by unsustainable practices. Okay. So in conclusion, Indian knowledge system is important and many useful aspects have neither been given its due nor evaluated effectively in the context of our lives. We simply dismiss them. Oh, you're backward, you're not modern, things like that. Indian knowledge system has to contend and compete with other knowledge systems. Okay. Many of which are coercive and are seductive. For example, fast food. It's very difficult for anyone in any part of the life now to say that we will avoid fast food. Everybody is in a hurry. Everybody is in a hurry to run fast, catch bus, go whatever. Okay. And t-shirts are extremely convenient. Jeans are very convenient. All of us at home just wear jeans and t-shirt. Sometimes reluctantly we go to office with formal clothes. Okay. So today, if you go to any college, all girls and boys are in jeans and t-shirt. Okay. So it's very seductive, meaning it's so comforting or so convenient. Jeans is convenient simply because you don't have to wash for 2 or 3 years. That's the hostel uniform. Everybody who lives in a hostel will wear a jeans because you don't have to wash for many days. Whereas if you wear a pajama at least every once in 2 days, you will have to wash. Okay. Similarly, modern maths, technology, and life science, biological and pharma now rule the roost. Everybody goes, takes a crocin, paracetamol, whatever it is, across the table. Okay. The question to ask is how, where, when, and how much of Indian knowledge system to be positioned in the gamut of life. Can we change wholesale? Yes or no? If we can't change wholesale, can we change parts of it? Which parts? What percentage? How long do you change? Because you change one, what other changes you have to bring? For example, one way to make air very clean is asking everybody to switch over to bullock cart and horses. Is it feasible? Is it possible? Is it meaningful? Suppose you have 1 million horses in city, where will you keep them? How will you bring grass for 1 million horses? How will you make 1 million horses drink so much of water today, clean water? Where will you get? So many issues. So changing suddenly is rolled out. So slowly and steadily, one component at a time, we need to make sure that whatever is good in Indian knowledge system can be incorporated into our life. For example, for the last 40 years, I have been using only dhoti, kurta, and pajama, cotton, and I get it stitched locally. Why? It is expensive, but what is important is when I get stitched, 50% of the money of the clothes go to the tailor who stitches. Today, if you buy from a mall, 90% of the money that goes into the product goes to the owner of the mall, owner or promoter, whosoever it is. Only 10% goes to the labor involved, which means you are not allowing another person to live equally well. That is equity. Equity means everybody has sufficient opportunities to live well. Not one person. For example, that stupid Ambani, even the wedding engagement, they have spent some, I don't know what, 400 or 500 crores. How vulgar and how cruel it is. They may have money, whose money it is, all our money. In a very clever process, they have accumulated that to themselves. So these are the problems of sustainability in society. Okay. Yeah, now let us, we have time for questions on this now. We can, I can take questions from people. Yeah. So if you have any questions, please unmute and ask. I will respond. Otherwise, many of you can also answer so that we have a nice, group discussion. There is many that I need to learn from you. It's not that I am the knowledge base and I am giving everything to you. You also have sufficient interesting knowledge components with yourself. So feel free to ask questions if you have anything, any clarification. Please
Sir.
unmute and ask.
Sir,
Sir,
ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ.
I want to.
ಸರ್ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ.
Hmm.
ಸರ್ ನನ್ನ ಹೆಸರು ಜಯಣ್ಣ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಮೆಣಸ್ಕರ ಚಾಮರಾಜನಗರ.
You can ask me in 3 languages, English, Kannada, and Hindi. All these 3 I'm fairly comfortable. Whatever suits you, you ask.
ಸರ್ ಈಗ ನೀವೆಲ್ಲ ಈಗಿನ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಇಂಡಿಯನ್ ನಾಲೆಡ್ಜ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಯಾವ ತರ ಇದೆ ಸರ್? ಇಷ್ಟೆಲ್ಲ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು ಕೂಡ ಅಟ್ ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟ್ ಯಾವ ತರ ಅದು ನಮಗೆ ಅಪ್ಲೈ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಅನ್ನೋದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮಾಹಿತಿ ಬೇಕು ಸರ್.
In what way it's applying is, how are you applying? How much of Indian knowledge system you yourself are using every day? That is one. What is your environment? For example, I send my son to a school where there is no uniform, but all the dress children wear has to be either khadi or handloom, not machine. So this is a very strong Indian knowledge component.
ಇವಾಗ ನಮ್ಮ ಯಾವುದೇ ಇದಾದ್ರೂ ಕೂಡ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಅಪ್ಲೈ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತಾನೆ ಅರ್ಥ ಸರ್ ಹಾಗಾದ್ರೆ.
ಇಲ್ಲ, ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಅಪ್ಲೈ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕು ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ, ನಿಮ್ಗೆ
ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬಹುದು.
ಬಿಟ್ಟು. ಹಾ.
Okay,
And
thank you,
very
sir.
you see very convenient rule. All
ಸರಿ.
children need clothes. ಬಟ್ಟೆ ಬೇಕೆಲ್ಲ ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ. ಯೂನಿಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಪರವಾಗಿಲ್ಲ, ಆದ್ರೆ ಯೂನಿಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಮಾಡುವಾಗ ನೀವು ಖಾದಿ ಇಲ್ಲ ಹ್ಯಾಂಡ್ಲೂಮೇ ಹಾಕ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಖರ್ಚು ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಇಲ್ಲ ಅನ್ನಲ್ಲ, ವೆರಿ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆನ್ಸಿವ್. ಬಟ್ ಇಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಎ ವೆರಿ ಹೈ ಈಕ್ವಿಟಿ. 10 ಜನ ಟೈಲರ್ಸ್ ಜೀವನ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ.
ಹೌದು ಹೌದು ಸರ್.
ಸೊ ಇದು ಇಂಡಿಯನ್ ನಾಲೆಡ್ಜ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್. ಸೊ ಹೌ ಯು ಯೂಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ಕಾಂಪೋನೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ Indian knowledge system you incorporate in your life, in your practice. That is, so there is a lot of scope. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Any other question?
Sir, I do agree that getting the cloth stitched in the tailor where we can share the resource equitably. But my question is sustainability versus the convenience. How do you differentiate? Normally what happen, if we go and give to the tailor, no doubt we need to customize with the tailor. That's not an issue. But sometimes convenience also finds the place of thing. How do you differentiate that?
Yeah. So what you have raised a very good question. This is where things fall apart. Western knowledge system always provides convenience. For example, remote control. Nobody buys a TV now without remote. Why do you need remote? You need remote because you don't want to get up, go and change the channel. So Western knowledge system does a lot of psychology. They find out, see what is people's major nature. All of us are lazy. We want to be lazy. So if you make a product which increases our laziness, it will sell very well. Remote is that. So Western knowledge system has a convenience factor. Indian knowledge system has a purpose factor. Now it is left to you. When do you value purpose? When do you value convenience? If purpose is higher than convenience, you must. That is why. Were you able to follow?
Yeah, I got it. It is ultimately.
Hello, sir. Namaste. Hello, sir. Namaste. ನನಗೆ ಅಜಯ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ. ಸರ್, ಇವಾಗ ಈಗ ನೀವು ಹೇಳಿದ್ರಲ್ಲ, ಈಗ ನಾವು ಡ್ರೆಸ್ ನ ಇದು ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಇಂಡಿಯನ್ ನಾಲೆಜ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ನ, is there any correlation between economic background and knowledge system?
Yeah, there is lot of economic background to knowledge systems. And
ಯಾಕೆಂದ್ರೆ ಈಗ ಬಡವ, ಈಗ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ ಗ್ರೌಂಡ್ ಎಕನಾಮಿಕಲ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಂಗ್ ಇಲ್ದಿದ್ದವರು, ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಬಟ್ಟೆ ಸಿಕ್ಕಿದ್ರೆ ಸಾಕಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಊಟ ಸಿಕ್ಕಿದ್ರೆ ಸಾಕಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ನಾಲೆಡ್ಜ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಎಷ್ಟು ಮಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಅವರು ಅಡಾಪ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳಕ್ ಸಾಧ್ಯ? ಅದು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಎಕನಾಮಿಕಲಿ ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಂಗ್ ಇದ್ದವ್ರು ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡಕ್ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಇದೆ. ಬಟ್ ಪೂರ್ ಪೀಪಲ್ ಇದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡಕ್ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಇಲ್ಲ.
Now a more fundamental question, who made them poor? ನೋಡಿ ಮೆಕಾಲೆ ಹೇಳಿದಾಗ 1835 ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇಂಡಿಯಾನಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾರು ಭಿಕ್ಷೆನೆ ಬೇಡ್ತಾ ಇರಲಿಲ್ಲ, ಅಷ್ಟು ಅನುಕೂಲದ ದೇಶ ಇತ್ತು. ಅದನ್ನ ಹೆಂಗೆ ನಮ್ ತರ ಕನ್ವರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಅಂತ ಪ್ಲಾನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ದ ಎಕನಾಮಿಕ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ವಿಲ್ ನಾಟ್ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಓವರ್ ನೈಟ್, ಇಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಟೇಕ್ ಟೈಮ್. ಸೊ ನೀವು 50 ವರ್ಷ ಇಂಡಿಯನ್ ನಾಲೆಡ್ಜ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್, ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಇಂಡಿಯನ್ ನಾಲೆಡ್ಜ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ ಆಗಲ್ಲ. ವಾಟ್ ಎವರ್ ಅಡಿಷನಲ್ ಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಟರ್ಸ್ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಪುಟ್ ಇನ್ will definitely make it, more equitable. For example, historically, almost all temples were giving free food. Even today, you go to Hornado, Dharmasthala, I mean, they feed thousands of people every day. ಮುಂಚೆ ಸಣ್ಣ ಊರಲ್ಲೂ ದೇವಸ್ಥಾನ ಊಟ ಹಾಕೋದು, so that nobody in the society is hunger. So we have created a lot of hunger by inequality, and Western economy is highly unequal. You see, kastapad madirbodu, I don't know, but Ambani has more wealth than the whole state of Karnataka. How vulgar is that? How much does a person need? So these are the questions to be asked, and the knowledge system should finally look at welfare of all. It's very important. 10 ಜನ ಮುಂದೆ ಬರೋದು ಹೆಚ್ಚಲ್ಲ, ಎಲ್ಲಾರು ಬರ್ಲಿ, ಮುಂದಕ್ಕೆ ಬರೋರು ಮುಂದೆ ಮುಂದೆ ಹೋಗ್ಲಿ, ಇಲ್ಲ ಅನ್ನಲ್ಲ, ಅಂಬಾನಿಗಳು ಇರ್ಲಿ, ಇರಬಾರ್ದು ಅನ್ನಲ್ಲ, ಆದ್ರೆ ಈ ತರ ಬಡತನ ಡಿಪ್ರೈವಿಂಗ್ ಆಪರ್ಚುನಿಟೀಸ್ ಇರಬಾರ್ದು ಅಷ್ಟೇ. ದಟ್ ನಾಲೆಡ್ಜ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ವಿಚ್ ಮೇಕ್ಸ್ ಅಟ್ ಲೀಸ್ಟ್ ಮಿನಿಮಮ್ ಲೆವೆಲ್ ಆಫ್ ಈಕ್ವಿಟಿ ಇಸ್ ವೆರಿ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. ಯಾ, ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಇನ್ನೇನಾದ್ರು?
Namaskara, sir.
ಹಾ
So in one of your slides,
ಹಾ
it was mentioned that, like, it is all, of course, it was in the bracket.
ಹಾ
Is it possible, meaningful, and productive to live by
ಹಾ
significant components of IKS only?
ಹಾ
And in the last slide, it was mentioned that where, when, and how much of IKS to be positioned in the gamut of life.
ಅದೇ,
That itself is a big question for us.
yes, it is a
That
question.
itself has put us in confusion.
It is not in confusion. I have raised
So
a
we are not
question.
in a position to.
I know.
Ah.
I have raised a question in all our minds. How much
Yes.
of it, all that.
Ah.
Secondly, I have also given an indication of what type of answer it will be by saying, can we be as productive in modern times with our knowledge system? If, for example, ಈಗ ಎಲ್ಲಾರ್ಗೂ ಆಯುರ್ವೇದಿಕ್ ಔಷಧಿನೇ ಮಾಡಕ್ ಹೋದ್ರೆ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗಲ್ಲ. We don't have enough natural resources to support the whole country with Ayurvedic medicine. We don't have. Everybody needs paracetamol and crocin. So we need to be very clear balancing this, because whether you like it or not, once the Western knowledge system came, efficiency, productivity, all these became a important factor. So going back, these are the, when you go back, going back is not difficult. Going back is not difficult. But can you manage everything for everybody with the Indian knowledge system? For example, I go occasionally to Ayurvedic doctor. The doctor says very clearly, the Ayurvedic medicine today we give is not very effective because I don't get ingredients which are very pure. I don't get pure ghee because the cow has already given milk which has antibiotics in it. I don't get pure herbs because they are grown with chemical fertilizer. All these are issues. So it will not be easy, but you have to question and see what you can do. Can you understand that? Athwa ಇನ್ನೇನಾದ್ರು you need
Yes,
more
sir.
clarification?
No. Can
ತಲೆಯಲ್ಲಿ
understand.
ಗೊಂದಲ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಇದ್ರ ವಿಚಾರದಲ್ಲಿ.
So ultimately it is. ಹೌದು.
Ultimately it's
ಇದೆ.
individual. Ultimately
Of
it's
course, sir.
individual. It's an individual choice.
Yes. As you said, sometimes we like to go back completely.
Difficult. Some
It
have
may not
done.
be possible because
Some
of so
have
many
done,
factors.
but collectively it's not. But you can go back a little. That's not difficult.
Yeah.
You can't
Yeah, of
go
course,
back
sir.
full. You can't go back full,
Yes.
but you can go back a
Yes.
little.
Yes.
For example,
you, sir.
house I have built is with mud.
Huh.
I have built a house. I live in a house which is made up of mud bricks, not even burned. ಸುಟ್ಟಿರೋ ಇಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಒತ್ತಿರೋ ಇಟ್ಟಿಗೆ. ಹಳೆ ಕಾಲದಲ್ಲಿ ಹೆಂಗ್ ಒತ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಇದ್ ಮಾಡೋರು ಆ ತರ. So you can make small choices, and I have never used.
Sir, and if you don't mind, if you
Ah.
don't feel bad, if you don't mind, can you name the school in which your son is studying? Because you said
It's a school called Arivu.
certain special things about that school.
Yeah, it's a school called Arivu in Mysore.
Arivo. Yeah, I
Arivu.
have heard of
In near Lingabudi Kere. Yeah.
ಗೊತ್ತಾಯ್ತು ಸರ್, ಗೊತ್ತಾಯ್ತು. Thank you, sir.
So that school has a lot of good things. It also has a lot of bad things. I'm not saying it's a perfect school. So there are a lot of nice things there. Very sustainable and sensitive. Yeah. Yeah. Any other question? Yeah, feel free, related, unrelated. Yeah, I can respond in English and Hindi if people have
Sir,
difficulty.
sir, another question. Sustainable development always have longer benefit. But still the generation, why it is moving towards non-sustainable and looking for immediate satisfaction and immediate contentment and exploiting the whatever it is available for human, either natural resource or anything, all dimension. They know that we are not going to get a long benefit, but still we are moving out. And how the way we can come out and get back to the things which are naturally sustainable to us.
See, it is very simple. Whatever is sustainable has what is called very slow time constant. Bullock cart is a sustainable transport, but it goes very slow. People want everything very fast. People want, see, this patience with time has gone away. Time has taken a very bad psychological factor on us. Nobody wants to go slow. Nobody wants things to happen slowly. See, all evolution is slow. Machines are fast. So we are now trading between evolution and machines, and we want more of machines ideas. So this is our problem. Okay, particularly with internet and mobile phone, you want everything very quick. And there are economics activities which I will provide very quick. So those are taken over. I think we have to go slow in life, enjoy slowly, learn to live with nice, slow, beautiful things like seasons. You can't have summer every day. Summer comes once in 4 months or once in a year. So I think we have to slow down our life. We are moving too fast, and we are allowing things which make us go fast very much into our life. We have stopped enjoying life. That's why. Yeah.
Yeah, certainly. The thing is that, uh, see, for example, everyone is feeling the heat of global warming. And everyone we are feeling the adulteration of food and even the fertilizer decline due to the plastic waste and all this everything we are immediate now only we are still why the cumulative motto is not taking place. Only it is a mouth of word is keeping, but the practical implementation is very difficult. And recently in 15 days back I've seen that in a Delhi Union Territory, almost 60 people have died because of heat stroke and everything. We are seeing, but why the cumulative effort is not taking now from the government words or from the society words or to the any direction? I'm not visible movement is taking place.
See, historically, society has never evolved collectively. Individuals only. Society evolves collectively. It is only reaction. Suddenly flood happens, everybody moves out. Suddenly something happens, civilizations collapse. Indus Valley civilization collapsed. In fact, almost all river valley civilizations collapsed. So society will not change suddenly. Individuals in society will change. They are sensitive people. Society always changes due to reaction. So there has been no collectivism in society for a very long time. So don't expect society to suddenly change and make things nice. You make things nice for yourself. If everybody does that, then the society will change. Society will change only if individuals in the society change. Otherwise it will be extreme, like what happened in Venezuela, Cuba and all, where government orders something. And then everybody tries to adjust to that, and it's a disaster. What happened in Sri Lanka is a government-made economic disaster. People didn't make it, government made it. So you have to be very careful when you expect mass changes, however sensible they are. Changes are always incremental, slow. Many individuals dramatically change, but groups of people don't change. Don't expect that.
ಸರ್ ನಮ್ದು ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ನನ್ನಲ್ಲಿ
ಹಾ
ಸರ್ ಈಗ ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಯು ಟೋಲ್ಡ್ ಮೆನಿ ಥಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ಸೊ ವಿ ಇನ್ ಇಂಡಿಯನ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಆರ್ ಇಂಡಿಯನ್ ನಾಲೆಡ್ಜ್ ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ಹ್ಯಾವಿಂಗ್ ದಟ್ ಆಲ್ ಟೈಪ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಟೆಕ್ನಾಲಜಿ. So where that the technology went. So for example, no, when Westerners bought up the aeroplane, Indian system said we had already had aeroplane Vimana. In Ayurvedic, we were conducting operations. So where that system and technology went, why we could not, retain those technology, and how we can bring it back?
There are two things to it. One, there was never any Vimana. Okay, lot of it was nice, good imagination.
Those are stories. That means you
A lot of
are
stories.
very stories of
See, all societies have built itself on stories. Without the storytelling, no society will develop.
Okay.
ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಕಥೆ ಹೇಳಬೇಕು. So only then society develops. So a lot of it is myth and imagination. So 80% of what is claimed in Indian knowledge system was not there in practice, but they had good imagination. Okay. What is important for us is to contextualize. For example, suppose just look back 40 years back, entire Pune city was traveling in bicycle. Same was Mysore. Even the deputy registrar, who was my uncle of Mysore University, used to travel by bicycle to his office and back. Very sustainable transport system. Today, students come in a car. There is no parking space for faculty in the university, but students have parking space. So this is what has happened. Meaning, we have given a choice and everybody has used wrong choices. And industry thrives on wrong choices. Today, if industry wants to make profit, they will say, we will give free motorbike to everybody and increase the petrol price by 200%. We will make our money on the petrol, not on the motorbike. Everybody will take it. So this idea of convenience and purpose has completely gone apart. Where there is convenience, there is no purpose. Where there is purpose, there is no convenience. So nobody wants to do purposeful thing because it's hardship. So this is what has happened. This is really what has happened. ನಾವು ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಷ್ಟಪಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತಲ್ಲ, ಬಟ್ ಕಷ್ಟಪಡೋದು ನಿಲ್ಲಿಸ್ಬಿಟ್ರೆ ತುಂಬಾ ತೊಂದರೆ. ಈಗ ಎಲ್ಲಾರು ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಇವತ್ತು ರಿಜಿಸ್ಟರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು PhD ನಾಳೆ PhD ಕೊಡಿ ಅಂತಾರಲ್ಲ. So everybody wants everything very quickly. It's a very poor non-human behavior. So we need to temper ourselves. We need to moderate ourselves. There are certain things which are fast, certain things which are slow. You can't make everything that is slow into fast. You see, first best example is Ame. Tortoise lives 150 years. Why? Because it does everything very slowly. Simple. Tortoise live 150 years. Why are people dying in 40, 50 years now so frequently? So many people in their 40s die now. Simply because they have accelerated their life. Organs don't respond to that acceleration. Natural life has its own time constants.